Welcome to Medically Speaking and our series about the fight against the coronavirus. Today, we're lucky to be joined by three individuals from Millard Fillmore Suburban Hospital who are literally working on the front lines here. So if I can, would at this point have Courtney, Andrew, and Sam. We want to talk a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and how long you've been working. So Courtney, let's start with you. How long have you been a nurse with the organization? How long have you worked at Suburban?
I've worked at Suburban almost 6 years. I have been working on 3 West over there.
Andrew, how about you?
I've been with Kaleida 16 months now, up on 3 West.
Okay. And Sam, how about you?
I have been a nurse for 4 years, and I'm actually going to be with Kaleida next month. It's going to be my 2-year anniversary, and I'm on 3 East.
Okay, so you guys are all on the 3rd floor there. So if we can, let's talk a little bit about your background and your training. I think when you guys look back, you probably had, through your education, seen how much training there was involved and even talks about mass casualty and all that. But in a situation like this, probably a little bit different. So Sam, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your education and training, and did you prepare for this? Did you think it would be as big as it has been?
Well, really signing up to be a nurse and becoming interested in nursing, I wouldn't think a pandemic would ever affect us the way it is. I didn't really think about that. I do feel prepared in training now that the guidelines are kind of set and not changing hour by hour. But it's a lot to handle.
Sure. Drew, how about you? Talk a little bit about your education, your experience, and the thought of the training for something like this.
I'm a graduate of NTRIP, and it really prepared me for situations like this. They're very hard on their students, but for a reason. You come out prepared and ready to go. You do cover mass casualty situations, and it's just trying to be safe. That's what I focus on.
Sure. And Courtney, how about you? Your training, your education, your experience, does this prepare you for something like this?
So I went to GUville, graduated from there in 2014. And as I was thinking about going through this, I don't think nursing school or anything kind of prepares you for this. Your experience helps you, but I don't think until you actually are in it, that you're prepared.
Sure. So Courtney, stay with that. So the quote, you're in it. So Suburban, probably more about 30, 45 days from now, we've had its first patient. So, that time when you entered the unit or you knew that you had a COVID positive patient, what was that like?
A lot of questions had to be asked because you have to, the protocols were constantly changing. So you're learning how you can protect yourself, and also how these patients have to be treated with regards to, isolation and all that. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but I think working together as a team, we all help each other, and that's really helped me personally.
Drew, how about you? Talk about that first day at work when you knew that you were going to have to take care of COVID positive patients, or maybe even just the first time the patient, ended up on the floor, and, what was the reaction like from yourself or the staff around you?
It's very stressful. You can prepare all you want, but as soon as you suit up and go in that room, it's just you and the patient. So I am surrounded by great nurses, and we all work together, and it's just as a team, we've really have cohesed, and we do our best every day.
Regular Sam, how about you? The anxiety of knowing that COVID is here and it's at Suburban Hospital, and this is something that's going to be part of our regular everyday life for foreseeable future. What was that like for you?
Safety is a major aspect of our jobs as nurses, and when 3 East became the designated COVID unit, we didn't feel protected at first. And as we got more supplies and more knowledge and experience, that has certainly lessened. It's still in the back of our heads and we think about it every day at work, but as Drew mentioned, we work as a team and our Kaleida family kind of helps with any added anxiety and stress.
So Sam, stick on that point for a second, the team aspect, and how important is that, knowing whether it's dietary, environmental services, nursing, how important is the team aspect to help you guys get through a shift these days?
Any little thing really helps. The other day, yesterday, in fact, Steve from transport was completely gowned up, had an N95 mask and was ready to enter a room. And I had a patient who set off the bed alarm and I was completely like ungarbed, and he went right in and made sure that patient was okay.
Drew, how about you? Talk about the team aspect and how that helps get the staff through, one of your long shifts.
Sure. I mean, one of the switches we made up here is we switched at the times our trays come to the floor. So we can kind of cluster our care in the morning now, where we do our vitals and our assessments and pass their meds and bring the trays in the room all at the same time, all in an effort to save PPE. So that was, dietary working with us to just kind of make it easier on the COVID floors rather than our trays coming up several hours after our med pass. So that helps. Gotcha.
Courtney, how about you? The team aspect and how that impacts your job?
Oh my gosh, it's everything. Like Drew was saying, just saving time, going in and out of the rooms, trying to restrict how many times you go into the rooms unless absolutely necessary. It is everything. And I just don't think we could do it without every single member of the team, including especially our aides. It's everything.
Sure. PPE has been mentioned, N95 masks, gowning up, things like that. So Courtney, if you can, talk a little bit about what that means for you guys and how you've seen the organization respond to the staff who, they want to make sure that they're protected, and has the call been answered?
Well, the donations of all the PPE, it was a huge thing. Like Sam was saying, with being worried about being protected at first, it was kind of scary, and there was back and forth about what was required for these patients. So I think now, personally for me, I feel protected since the beginning, so it's better now.
Yeah, Sam, if you can, talk a little bit more about that. I mean, one thing the organization Kaleida has done is try to learn from what's happening out west, or even down in New York City, which seems to be a week or two ahead of where we are in terms of the impact of the coronavirus. And PPE obviously is a big deal. So have you seen the PPE issue get to a point where you guys feel comfortable and you guys have what you need?
Now, I'd say as of 2 weeks ago, absolutely. There's managers from different floors literally walking up saying, "Are you guys good? Do you need anything?" And I know Kaleida is thinking about decontaminating the N95 masks as other places are. I think that's a great idea, given we have the peer-reviewed information on how that is going to work and to make sure it suffices and really decontaminates them.
Sure. Drew, let me ask you about Suburban in particular. People may still think it's just a smaller community hospital, but the bed capacity that you guys have, the ICU capacity, how you guys have surged up. Tell us a little bit about what you see every day, where Suburban's not your typical small community hospital anymore. How you guys really, in the amount of volume that you guys are taking on for COVID patients, how you guys have responded to that.
I think just as a team, we've kind of rallied together, all departments, just to prepare for this. And with the backing of Kaleida being such a big organization, it's, it may be a smaller building, but it has all the bells and whistles of a larger hospital. So that's, and being right in the community, and Williamsville being one of the harder hit communities, it's really pain in spades right now.
So another question for you, Drew, that I'll ask all three of you is, it's probably the thing that you get asked every day, either by text, by Zoom, by your family members. What is it like working on the front lines of this pandemic, or this public health crisis? What do you tell people when they ask you, Drew, what's it like?
I tell them it's stressful, but at the same time, it's rewarding knowing that I'm making a difference and I am on the front lines. And especially with my floor, we do a lot of discharges of patients, so it's nice to see them progress from the ICU to my floor, and then we get them well enough to go home. So it's pretty rewarding.
Sam, what do you tell your family, your friends, when they ask you, what's it like working in the middle of a pandemic with these types of patients?
I first tell them to stay home and wash their hands.
Yes.
And I just tell them, I really tell them how I feel every day. I like to get to know my patients, but it's hard when they're so scared and we're trying to cluster our care. You can't just easily pop in. I tell them that it's stressful, but the teamwork is really helpful. And I take pride in knowing that I'm helping a patient with everything going on right now.
Sure. And Courtney, how about you? You're in the middle of a public health crisis, and I'm sure your family and friends are constantly reaching out to you to check in on you or to ask how things are going. What do you tell them?
I tell them as much as I can about, when I'm actually at work, the experience is like. Just like Sam and Drew said, I definitely have been telling my family to stay home. There's definitely some anxiety within my family. So, it's just reassuring patients, their families, since they can't be there.
So let me ask you that. When you have to deal with the anxiety of being at work, but also the anxiety of what happens at home. So Courtney, how do you deal with something like that? What is your stress level like, whether you're at work or whether you're at home?
Well, when I'm at work, I'm definitely not afraid to ask for help from my coworkers. So that's really helpful in making the day easier. When I'm at home, I'm sure everyone can relate to this. It's just self-care is super important. So whatever that is to you, that helps you like decompress. I'm making sure that I'm doing that.
Sam, how about you? How do you balance the stress and anxiety of whether you're at work or when you're at home, or when you're at work and you're worrying about home?
Well, a big part of nursing, it's hard to leave work at work sometimes. That's nothing new, but especially with this pandemic, it's getting even harder because we're dealing with situations that are sad on a day-to-day basis, unfortunately. So I'm trying to leave work at work, and when I'm home, I've been watching a lot of sports movies to fill my sports voids and just focusing on self-care.
Drew, how about you? How do you manage the stress of being at work or worrying about home, or vice versa? I mean, how do you deal with your stress and anxiety?
I mean, at work, it's nice to have to talk to the other nurses on the floor that are going through the same things, the lack of sleep, the stress, the anxiety. When I go home, I just try to disconnect from media as much as possible and just try to step away from it and just let my body decompress and just take care of myself and get ready to come back and do it again.
So I'll ask you guys one last question here as we wrap up. If there was one thing that you guys want people to know, or if there's any type of message that you'd want, whether it's about how things are going for you or the support from the community or coworkers, what's that one thing you'd want the community to know? Let's start with you, Drew.
Community's been great. There's just been an outpouring. If I'm out in public and I have my scrubs on, people thank me all the time, which is pretty flattering. We get a lot of food donations, which are always welcomed on this floor, and especially the PPE donations as well. That really, I think, turned the tide and got us our N95s and really made me feel more protected at work. So thanks to everyone that's pitched in.
That's great. Courtney, how about you? Your message, one thing you want people to know or hear?
I definitely agree with Drew. Food is always welcome, and I can't tell you like how grateful we are for the food donations and the protective equipment donations. As I was saying earlier, it really is everything, and we just thank the community so much.
And Sam, we'll end with you. What type of message you have?
Buffalo truly is the city of good neighbors. I'm blown away by the sentiments, the notes, the food donations everybody's given. Our friends at Lenova take care of us, Rachel's, Pita Planet, just to name a few. And we really, really appreciate it. And it makes us feel appreciated for everything that we're doing right now.
Well, guys, as we wrap up here, we want to make sure that we thank you first for taking time and doing this and sharing your story, but also what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. The community is grateful. We could not get through this without your help, your dedication, your commitment. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.